Good afternoon, everybody. It's Anne Woodcock from FishPal, and today we wanted to focus on the basically the march that's happening. And I'm just going to invite my guests to come into the feed. I've got Bobby White. He's on the Tay. Hi, Bobby. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, Anne. Nice to see you.
Oh, and I've also got Simon Furness, who's actually sitting outside his fishing hut on the Tay. Hello, Simon.
Anne. Nice to see you.
And I've also got up on Speyside, Charlie Whelan joining me. Good afternoon, Charlie.
Good afternoon, Anne. I'm not by my hut. I'm in my kitchen, I'm afraid.
You're in your kitchen. Well, it looks very nice, can I just say? I'm just going to be muting you guys. Well, everybody who's coming into the feed, I got a little ticker tape along the bottom to say, please add your questions and comments. I know we've currently got 12 people watching this, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today, and do let us know where you're coming from. Bob, whilst you're eating your lunch, because I know we've only got you whilst you're going off to do you're working this afternoon, do tell us, Bob, what today is all about.
Well, this has been organised by the Scottish Gamekeepers. It's a rural workers' protest. We feel that we're not getting a just case heard in the Holyrood Parliament, and there's much frustration with the gamekeepers, gillies, and basically rural workers. So we feel that if we can protest and let our voices be heard, then hopefully the MSPs, especially with an election coming up in May, will maybe start to listen to us a little bit more carefully.
Well, for the next hour, we're going to be talking about what's happening out there in the community and just sharing what everybody's doing as well. So please do add your comments into this feed. Now, before actually, we've also got Archie Hay. He's also joining us from D-side. So Archie is currently in the green room at the moment. Before I get Archie on and say hello to him, hello Archie, hope you're well. It looks like he's just about to walk somewhere and sit down. He's got a smile on his face. That's what we want, a bit of sunshine and a smile. I'm going to add the into the feed. There's actually a message from the chairman, Alex Hogg, and he's actually including the 5 protests. So I think we should really set the scene with this.
Rural workers and their families in for green support. They may as well have tucked themselves in Patrick Harvey's pocket. I have been a rural land worker all my adult life. I grew up on Kelburn Estate, where my father was a shepherd. I've worked in forestry and gamekeeping all my life. My wife and I have brought up 3 children in the Glen. But my huge worry lies with my 3 grandkids. I never ever thought they might see the day when our way of life and culture would be so threatened by the actions of this Parliament. When the Scottish Parliament was built, there was hope that hard-working folk in the countryside would be represented strongly at Holyrood. People with hands-on knowledge of farming, crofting, fishing or gamekeeping, traditional industries which still keep the heart beating communities. It was a chance to hear the voices from the Glen houses. Major decisions are being made daily in Edinburgh affecting people like me by people who will never live an hour with the consequences. We asked MSPs to come out and leave the political village to see fox control in action in our villages. Only one MSP came, yet badly judged policy followed on fox control with dogs. SNP told
Hi, Anne. We seem to have lost each other somewhere.
Hello, everyone. Are we still there? Okay. Hi, guys. Okay.
Hello, we're back again.
We're back. Well, what we've got is that my computer, my main computer, has crashed. So I have just literally switched on my laptop, and I'm now actually looking at you from a laptop as well. So I'm hoping we're going to get Bob back as well, or he might be just finishing his lunch, which could be the thing. So I'm just hoping. Everybody who's watching this, is anybody can actually acknowledge that they can see us all now? That would be a great thing. So let me just let Bob know. Bob, we're back. So sorry about that, everybody, but I don't know what's happened to my computer. So did everybody get to see the video? Because I didn't actually see any of that. Did everybody see that okay?
Slightly
Simon?
disjointed and it was slightly disjointed, lost some sound at time and lost the end of it.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, obviously that's not been a very good start, and I would like to apologise everybody for that, because that's not normally what actually happens when we do a live here at FishPal. So, Simon, thank you so much for joining us today. Just tell us a little bit about what the protest means to yourself and the Gillies on Tayside, please.
Well, I think it's all part of the rural structure, which is being seriously overlooked by governmental departments. And it's involving the whole countryside, not just Gillies, but everybody who's connected with the countryside. And they seem more interested with the Green Party and conservation, fairly irresponsible sorts of conservation that, for example, beavers, allowing the reintroduction of beavers. And we as river proprietors and owners and fishery people are planting trees to improve habitat. And here we are introducing a beast that does great delight in destroying everything that you plant. So that's real good, logic. And with this, until we can get somebody who can take on board in the SNP, which I think looks fairly fond hope when you watch the drama that's been going on with Sturgeon and Mr. Salmon, trying to get some sense out of politicians is a fairly fond hope. We've got the Marine Scotland with their new policy on stocking, which is been carte blanche, basically not wanting any stocking. They weren't prepared to listen or talk to us. But to be fair, Bob has done a great job in getting them petitioned and getting them to listen into that, giving us a say in what we can hopefully do for the river, because everybody's aim is to look after our habitat. We don't want to destroy it. We don't want to harm it. And it's for the good of everybody around. It's not just for the people who fish or in the countryside. Heather burning, another big contentious issue. But if you look where it isn't done, it has very retrograde effects on bird life. And all these conservation measures that people are taking have been to the good of the countryside. And
Well, we've actually got Bob back in the feed, Simon. So I've just put you on mute because I wanted to put Bob back in and actually answer a few of the questions about what Bob's actually been doing. Bob, you have actually been quite, you've been going to Parliament, etc. Tell the listeners a little bit about what you've actually been doing and how you've been supporting the Gillies, please.
Yeah. Last year, there was much discussion about hatcheries, etc., and stocking of salmon. And there was a group of us on the Tay spoke quite vociferously about it, because, well, we have a hatchery on the Tay at Ammon Bank, which is crucial for the river here, and it also gives people hope that and reassurance that we're actually trying to do something to help a salmon population that's shrinking rapidly certainly over my lifetime, and over the last few years it's been fairly catastrophic, and everybody's fairly worried about it. And Marine Scotland came out with a stocking policy, which pretty much was trying to start tying people's hands right up behind their backs, and basically saying it wasn't something that they were very keen on. And arrogantly, they came out with this without actually really consulting stakeholders as such. So that was the basis of a petition that the Scottish gamekeepers lodged with Holyrood that, you know, whether you were for hatcheries or not, there was no consultation with the stakeholders, or very little consultation. So that was brought forward in front of a group of MSPs, and they backed what we were asking for, which was basically a consultation with Marine Scotland, which actually has happened now. There was a first consultation back in December, which went fairly positively, and there was the promise of further consultations. But interestingly, there's been no further consultation after that first one.
So, Bob, so what are you saying? You're actually saying that in December there was a consultation with Marine Scotland, so they have opened up the doors and they want to speak with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Anne. Yeah.
Okay, but can I just say, would you say that at the moment, we've been putting this together for today, and we've had people that are on furlough that have been unable to come on today. Do you think that there's a lot of places that people are on furlough as well?
Certainly on the river here, we've got a number of gillies that are on furlough, and I dare, you know, for having spoken to people on other rivers, there's a lot of people in the same boat.
Yeah. And obviously with Marine Scotland, do you think that them not coming back to you, it might be, have you asked them the question, are people on furlough, are they actually responding to what you know, for another meeting yet, or have they not responded back?
There's been no correspondence since December, but yeah, I do take your point that obviously we're in difficult times, and hopefully there will be further consultations, because the first one was fairly positive, and I think they were really listening, and hopefully we can maybe mellow down their kind of stringent rules to help rivers in the future.
And what let's, you know, can you quickly tell us what kind of things do you want from Marine Scotland then?
Well, some of the points that came out in the consultation were that a lot of the examples that they used as evidence, which there was some, I think there was 300 odd examples, and the people from Scotland were saying, you know, that there were plenty of examples in Scotland of positive uses of hatchery, and they weren't cited in the paperwork. So there was an air of frustration about that, because there have been quite a lot of successes of stocking in Scottish rivers, and you know, they should be looking closer to home and using some of those as positive examples. One of the other things that I thought was maybe a bit restrictive was that they're very strict in the way that they want people to stock, if they're stocking allowed at all, and that's basically putting in eggs or idova. Now, I know from the successes that we've had on the Tay using the hatchery that where we have put eggs and iova in places where there's no population, there has been a survival rate. But what we felt in the consultation, and it was backed up by quite a few others, that, you know, we should be able to take the fish on further, maybe even to par, because then you can fin clip par, which means that if they do come back, then you get the evidence, you see the evidence, and I would say recently, I dare say everybody's witnessed it in Scotland. You know, we had this absolutely horrendous flood about 3 or 4 weeks ago. You know, 20-foot flood on the Tay here on the main stem. Now, to me, that does irreparable damage. So, is there a case? They say that it's very difficult to actually monitor a juvenile population on a big river like the Tay, or the main stem of a river like this. But is the juvenile population thriving? Is there a good enough juvenile population in the main river? Because a lot of us, I think, over the last, I would say maybe 10 years or so, we seem to see the fish just absolutely race through all our bits of river. Especially, on the Tay here, it's like a motorway, and the main beats are struggling to maintain catches to keep people coming, because I think that the fish are adapting to these extreme conditions and going further and further out the system. So obviously, when they come back, they go back to where they were born, which is a way out the system, and that's very frustrating for a kind of main stem gilly beat that relies on parties coming to stay in hotels, etc., etc.
Well, can I just introduce Archie here into the conversation, because obviously he looks after 9 miles of the River Dee. Again, good afternoon, Archie, and apologies that we actually lost everybody right at the start. My computer is still whirring away, so I apologise for that. Thank you for joining me today, Archie.
I can't hear you.
Oh, thank you for joining me, Archie. Can you hear me now? Oh, we're just absolutely gutted here. Archie, can you hear? We have struggled with Archie. So I am going to bring on Charlie Whelan. This is the beauty, Charlie Whelan, of technology, isn't it?
Yeah, wonderful technology. I'm glad that we have it so that we can talk to each other.
Yeah, well, apologies for the start. Obviously, my computer, I think I'm going to actually be saying to work, I need a new computer. They'll love me for that one. So, but Charlie, you're based up on in Grantown-on-Spey. Tell us a little bit about the importance of today for the area of Grantown, well, the Spey side, please.
Yeah, well, too often, I'm afraid, and politicians forget how much things, just simple things like salmon fishing, means to a community. And here up in Grantown-on-Spey, on the Spey, obviously, it means a hell of a lot, because it's the number of people who come up fishing is quite substantial. They spend a lot of money in hotels, B&Bs, pubs, restaurants, the local angling shop. And these tourists are very important. They bring a lot of money to the area. The government, it seems, of all colours, I won't just blame the SNP, because I expect the previous Labour one wasn't much better, seem to forget this. They think that a fish farm makes huge amounts of money for the area. And of course it doesn't. Very, very few people are employed on these fish farms, and all these fish farms do is pollute the seas that then make salmon die and sea trout, and then we get less and less salmon, less and less people coming up to Grantown-on-Spey, and people lose their jobs and their livelihoods. So today really is about to try and get people in Parliament to listen. They tend not to listen. They tend not to care too much about rural people. I've discovered, being an ex-townie and someone who's very much involved in politics, and I accept that. I probably, when I was involved working for Gordon Brown, we probably didn't listen enough to people in rural areas, and certainly wouldn't have bothered too much. I mean, we would have cared about angling, because we realised that 4 million people are anglers in the country, in the United Kingdom as a whole, and therefore they are worth listening to. We as Gillies, as the chaps here today are on the Tay and from D-side, the Gillies find it difficult to get their voices heard. I mean, they're not like the RSPB, big charities like that, who have huge budgets. I mean, do you know, Anne, the RSPB have, I'm not against the RSPB, but I'd just like to point out, they have in Scotland 35 press officers, right? I mean, 35, imagine that. I mean, the gamekeepers, I think we've got one person working for us, and we all try and do our best to promote what the gillies are doing. But there's a huge imbalance there. So we have a difficult job trying to get over our arguments, but it's something obviously we're all determined to do, and today is what we're trying to do.
And do you think that the general public forget about the countryside until they go there?
Oh yes, I mean we know when we up here in Speyside, when the last lockdown ended, we were just inundated. I mean you could get into the Cairngorms because the cars that were parked up there. So people do love the countryside. They love to come here. They perhaps don't respect it as much as they should. But I mean, the brutal facts are, of course, in terms of Parliament and the government, is that it's about the central belt, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest about this. That's where most people live. That's where most voters live. And unfortunately, what's happened we've had this Scottish Parliament. Everyone thought marvellous, we've got our own Parliament. But instead of sort of London dictating things, we just got Edinburgh dictating things, even worse, really, than what it was before. I mean, one thing I think we need to do more of, and I know it's quite difficult, is try and get some of these politicians up here to see what it's like. Come, invite them up shooting, invite them up whenever you can fishing, because that's how they learn. I remember a Labour MP from Liverpool who had never, we persuaded him to go shooting just on a local shoot. He thought it was just for tops, and of course it isn't just for tops. There's hundreds of thousands of people who enjoy shooting. And he went, and he loved it, and he thought it was great, the camaraderie of the local people in that shoot. And I did manage to invite one of the. In fact, I invited Alex Salmon to come salmon fishing one time. He did say he'd come, but he's since lost his job. But if you can get these politicians up just for a day's fishing or a day's shooting, they're going to listen to you, and they might quite understand what you're saying.
Well, we actually had Dr. Aileen MacLeod. She came fishing with us, and she came on quite a few ladies' days because she'd actually been introduced to fishing by her father as well, and she hadn't done it for years. And it was really, really good to actually have come out and actually see that we're casting a line across the river, and we were doing it with Claire Mercenaire on a Tay Ladies Day where we were raising money for I think it was breast cancer charity, Casting for Recovery, on that event. And she actually really got what we were doing, because she literally we saw a couple of fish, we saw kingfishers, but it was that whole experience with the girls and actually having a really nice day out. And she came and opened the River Tay one year, and she actually wanted to open it and use a double-handed salmon rod, and she literally was having a casting lesson the morning of the opening from Scott Mackenzie, just so that she could actually show people that she wanted to try, and she wanted to get to know the sport, etc. as well. Do you think that politicians and people who can make a difference as well really want to come out and engage, Charlie?
Mostly they probably don't, to be honest, Dan. I mean, they're extremely busy. It's terribly difficult to tie these people down, and there are, I mean, really, you just have to concentrate on your local MP or MSP, because they're more likely to. I couldn't ever imagine Gordon Brown coming out salmon fishing, I must say, or Tony Blair or anybody like that. But you never know. I mean, certainly in the Westminster Parliament, there was a very healthy angling group of MPs, and they were quite active and did a lot for angling. So there's and in Westminster there was a shooting. People who supported shooting as well. I'm not so sure that's the same in Holyrood, but certainly if you can ever get any politician or anybody connected with politics to come fishing or to go shooting or whatever, then it really is worthwhile, as you say, Anne. It's they get a different perspective, and of course they're going to listen to what you've got to say. They have to listen because they're stuck on the river for a fairly long time.
Well, I'm actually going to be bringing in Archie, but before I bring Archie in, we've actually got Gulab. He's tuning in from Pakistan. And we've also got Norma English, and she says, are we now allowed to go fishing, or do we still have to wait? Just to answer that quick question for you, Norma, is that dependent where you live, go and have a look in your local area. If you are based in Scotland, you've got to stay local. Everywhere, everybody's got to stay local. So, but do get in touch with us at FishPal. Just come on the help desk, and we'll actually help you with to answer that question wherever you live. Okay, always happy to help at FishPal. So Archie, we'd love you back into this. We've got you back, my lovely. Hello, Archie.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
I can't hear you this time, Anne. Thank you.
Well done. Well, I did pop you out the feed to get you back in. Archie, you're on Royal Deeside, and I'm going back to a point earlier on made by Bob about the fact of the importance of the fishing and country sports to Royal Deeside. How important is it for you?
Well, I mean, the Dee Valley, particularly the start of the season, well, right from February right through to the middle of October, the hotels, guest houses, restaurants, shops, they all get a major income from the fishing industry, from the fishers coming. Many fishers come as families, husband, wives, and in summer-wise, the children are there as well. In fact, for many years, I've 3-generation families here at the same time. And some of these people have been coming 50 years. So, when you think of that times, 50 years of constant income to the valley, it certainly makes a difference. I know last year a lot of the beats did feel the pinch because obviously it was July before any sort of travel, end of July before any travel was allowed, and which did curtail most beats activities. I mean, we have local fishers, but there's only so many of them. But no, the fishing and shooting in Deeside, in fact, well, just any of the estates, it's all major contribution to the economy, that's for sure.
And I know Charlie mentioned as well about the fact that people think it's just toffs who go fishing. What do you think about that?
No, not in the slightest. I would say I have far more what our classes, working class men fishing with me now than what we call toffs. In years ago, yes, possibly it would have been the toffs that would come. They're probably the only ones that could get a full week off at the time. But now it's particularly with, I think most people now, that it's not necessarily a week they come; it's maybe 3 days they come, and that puts it well within grasp of the Norman working man, etc. Obviously, I think I have more working class people than I do otherwise.
And the river that obviously you look after 9 miles of fishing. That's a lot of fishing to look after. We've been talking about obviously the decline of salmon. Tell us, for anybody who doesn't know anything about Royal Deeside, and obviously we've got people coming here watching this that are international. Just for people who are watching that don't know about the wonderful Royal Deeside, just tell them a little bit about it, please, and the salmon population.
Sorry, Anne, one of our fishes has just appeared. So
well, that's great. Well,
I didn't quite hear your question. Sorry.
That's not a problem. So just to let everybody know, we've got people out and about in the community today, out and about on the whole of Scotland. And it's really good that obviously, Archie, you've given up your time whilst you've actually got anglers on your beat as well. For people who are watching this that may not know about Royal Deeside, just tell people a little bit about it, please.
Well, it's probably the further up you come Deeside, we're basically right into Highland scenery. There's a sign just before Dinnet that says you're entering the Highlands, and we are actually it's very much a highland river, with nothing like the size of the Tay, which I always say is three rivers. You've got one side, the middle, and the other side. It's just the sheer size of it. Even the Spey is a bigger river than the Dee. It's what can you say? It's very picturesque. Major scenery throughout the whole catchment. For plenty, for people that come with fishers, there's plenty of other things to do. Amazing walks, etc. All round about. When they're open, there's fantastic eateries, etc. And it's it's a very family orientated place as well, sort of area.
Friendly. Yeah. We've got a question in from Tom Lessels, and he said that, do you think the staycation explosion could be the turning point for the rural economy?
Well, it's there's only so much, staycation. I hate to say it, but do we have the infrastructure totally for all these people? I mean, we see the effect on the north of Scotland with the North Coast 500, etc. There's major problems there with lack of infrastructure, toilets, etc. We saw that at the end of lockdown when we got inundated with guests, or not guests, but visitors to the countryside. There were some days it was impossible to go anywhere because the roads were just so crammed full of cars. It was and just cars left abandoned, basically, not parked, but left abandoned at roadsides. I would like to think that people would, come to the countryside more, but if it is all in, everyone in one fell swoop, we badly need to get infrastructure. I mean, the Dee, we've been doing major things with toilets and all this for our beats to try, particularly for the lady fishers. But I mean, there's an awful lot of places that don't even have public toilets these days because of cuts.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to Charlie Whelan and ask Charlie this question. So I'm just going to mute you. Talking about lady anglers, we've actually, with FishPal, 20% of people viewing the FishPal site are actually women. So, Charlie, I can see you laughing. I can see you smiling. Not like smiling. So tell us that question. Do you think the rural economy, well, the community can actually cope with a lot of tourists?
At the moment, no. I mean, I write for the Badenoch and Strathspey Herald about the Route 500. Fortunately, it doesn't come through here. But if anybody's been on it, or I've got a camper van, and last year attempted to go up, and now you have to have a map to show you where the Route 500 isn't. So you just tell your friends, don't, whatever you do, go on Route 500. Somebody's promoted this Route 500. And as we were just saying there, that from Archie, that there's no infrastructure. The Route 500 is actually is actually a classic example where governments have done absolutely nothing. It's a private company that promotes Route 500. And it's been a total disaster for many people living around it. I won't go into that too much. So look, no, we haven't got the infrastructure. We should get it, because I'm sure we are going to get more and more visitors coming, particularly with COVID. They are going to come up to the Highlands, and they're most welcome. We love visitors coming to the Highlands. We love people coming up here fishing, but there's a big but, I'm afraid, Anne.
Yeah. Well, I've got a fabulous question from Charlie Jeffrey. I'm going to be putting Bob into the feed on this. So thanks, Charlie, for that. I'm actually going to just put it on. Oh gosh, before somebody else. There we go. Having been in Holyrood for a debate on salmon fishing a couple of years ago, all parties present were singing from the same hymn sheet, but when aquaculture was shown to have such detrimental effect on West Coast spawning rivers, they shut their ears. I've written several times to Fergus Ewan and Rosanna Cunningham, but always receive the same bland response that it creates so many jobs in rural communities, which sadly is not true. And I think that's about it. I couldn't get all these. He's written that much. We haven't actually got it all. Bob, would you actually to sort of help on that, please? Answer that question.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I could say on that is that that there's been little or no movement on 2 parliamentary inquiries into fish farming, which is not good at all. I think that salmon farming has not been a good thing in Scotland. Obviously, it mainly affects the west coast, because that's where the majority of the farms are, and a lot of the rivers over in that area have been absolutely decimated by this, and we have been very slow to learn from the mistakes, and even now, I don't think we're really putting our hands up to admit to all that. I think that in Norway, in particular, there's been rigorous controls put in there, determining where farms can be that won't affect rivers. But here we're just not quick enough on it, and we're still not dealing with it properly. There's an awful lot to be done. I'm not saying that it's all bad, but it's the majority of it is it's an environmental disaster, really.
And this is one of the key points of the protest today, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that is one of the key points, is that these parliamentary inquiries are not being dealt with. It just seems to be put on the back burner. It's very, very slow. And I know that they advertise the fact that salmon farming is so important to Scotland, but by God, there's been an environmental consequence as well, and we're not dealing with it properly.
But Marine Scotland have got in touch with you in December.
Yeah, but that wasn't about salmon farms.
Okay, all right.
That was nothing to do with salmon farms.
Okay.
Yeah, that was mainly about stocking salmon from hatcheries into rivers.
So do you think they need to be engaged in that conversation with you on that as well?
Yeah, certainly from the gamekeeper's point of view and the fishing group. We've been advocating that for a while, as have many others. It's a bit of an embarrassment, really. On you go.
I was going to say, I'm just going to bring in Simon as well, because he's sitting there outside his fishing hut, and I'd like Simon's thoughts on this as well. Simon, what's your thoughts?
Well, and as Bob said, there's been a couple of inquiries, and SEPA was tasked to monitor these fish farms more aggressively and make sure they complied with the rules and regulations and tested them for lice infestation and all the rest of it. But considering that you couldn't even get somebody from SEPA to look at river pollution job, let alone go and look around fish farms, because they've all been furloughed and sitting at home on their computers. NAFL's been done for months. So, they've got all this legislation, but there's actually no teeth there at all. It's absolutely pointless, and they're just still carrying on ad hoc as they were. And, it's like any intensive form of farming, that with these fish farms, if you overpopulate a pen of anything, a field of anything, you end up with disease. And they're just cramming so many stock into a fish cage and expecting them to not get disease and infection. If they've got a fish farm, they've got to have a lot less stocking density to get a healthy stock. But I mean, who are we to know what they talk about? But as an ex-farmer, I know that when you start putting too many stock in, you get infections and trouble. And this is one of their big problems. They're just overstocking it. And it seems they're quite happy to tolerate losses of up to 5, 10, 15% out of a sea cage. So, it's very bad practice, and there's nothing been done about it.
Charlie, What's your thoughts?
I'm horrified of what's happened. I mean, Scottish salmon. These salmon, they're not Scottish. The only thing about Scottish salmon is that they pollute the salmon pollute the waters of Scotland. That's the only thing Scottish about them. The eggs all come over away from Norway. The open cages that the rest of the world are now abandoning. In Canada, they're closing all the open cages. In Norway now, it's all closed containment. You can't just go. I mean, farmers can't get their cows and pour all their crap into the river, but that's what they're doing with the fish. It's a disgrace, and we've had 2 parliamentary inquiries. Both of them have said things have got to stop, and have they stopped? No, we've just doubled, or they plan to double the number of salmon farms. That is really probably the most annoying thing that this government has done. Completely ignore what their own parliament has said, do absolutely nothing about it. I know it's okay. It is mostly in the West Coast, but this is all salmon, all sea trout. I mean, there's some rivers there. There's no sea trout. There's no salmon. They've gone, and it's all because of these salmon farms, who, as I said earlier, Anne, employ very, very few people. It's a lie when they say that this is all about jobs and the huge amount of money this earns for this country. Don't forget that the biggest salmon farm of the lot isn't Scottish at all. It's Norwegian. It's damaging the rural economy, and this government are culpable, and it's shocking what they've done. Sorry.
For people who are watching this and just give us an idea of how valuable the rural community is and the value of it.
Well, in monetary terms, it's been, often someone does a survey on this, but you're talking of hundreds of millions of pounds in the rural economy that depends on rural pastimes. I mean, can you imagine people coming up to Royal Deeside, where you get the royal family fish there? I don't know if Prince Charles still does fishing, but I know he was a very keen angler. But imagine if he goes there, there's no fish. There's no wild salmon left, but that's where we're going. People perhaps won't want to come to Scotland anymore and contribute to the economy. But it really is crucial. And to say that to abandon wild salmon under pretense that these fish farms are saving Scotland, it's ludicrous. And the Scottish government have got a lot to answer for.
Well, I want to talk about the rural economy and the next generation of the rural economy. So I'm just going to take Simon out the feed so we can all show this, because I think this is so important. There we go. Let's get this in, because
I'm Cheyenne Stronach. I'm 17. I'm a farm worker and a smallholder. This is our land and this is my future.
Well, there you go. That is a 17-year-old young lady who is a farm worker, a smallholder. Her young brother, who is coming up to 16, he's actually going to be an apprentice, I think a gillie on an estate. The future of our industry, how positive is it? With obviously Cheyenne, it's looking great, but how many young people are wanting to go into the Scottish rural economy? Oh, well, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Scottish Gamekeepers conference a few years ago I think it was about being in Inverness. I can't remember exactly where it was, and the number of young people that were there was astonishing. I mean, people seem to think it's all old gits like us, not you, of course, but no. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of young people, and our angling club here on the Spey in Grantown. We charge the young people, I think it's just a nominal £10 for a season ticket, for example. So, and I know the Scottish Gamekeepers Gillie section doing a lot of work with young people on all the rivers on the Spey as well. And I'm always amazed the number of young people who are really involved in rural pursuits, and I think it's very healthy, actually, Anne.
Well, I'm going to ask Bob White that question as well. Bob, I know we on the Tay have got one of the youngest gillies, haven't we, as well? Oh, Bob, sorry, I'll unmute you. Bob, I've got you. Bear with us. Sorry, everybody. Oh, Bob, you need to unmute yourself. You've muted yourself. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right.
You've muted yourself, Bob. I can't unmute you when you've muted yourself. Obviously, Cheyenne Stronach, she's also an angler as well. She is 17 years old, and she is a young farm worker. The sport, the gillies, etc. How are we seeing a growth of young people who want to, conceive a future as a gilly or in country sports?
Well, I think I need to dampen this down a little bit here, because the truth of the matter is, over the last 10 years or so, I think that there's less employment on the river, certainly on the Tay here, that the likes of myself, which is a glaring example, that when I started at Stanley, there was 3 gillies, three full-time employees here working the 4 beats that we have. Now it's just me. And our accounts cannot, I can't even justify a part-time gilly to work with me just now, because the accounts won't let us do that. So I have to run 4 beats basically myself, and try to, well, my ultimate aim is to make it break even, but that is a tall order now. So it would be great to see more salmon in the rivers, because when the fish appear, then the anglers appear. On a more positive note, though, last year, after the lockdown lifted, basically people were not able to travel abroad, so they were coming back to Scotland to fish, which was, it was really great, and there was people coming back that I hadn't seen for years, and they did have a good experience, and they're rebooking again this year. So I'm kind of a bit more optimistic that if we get another good summer like we did last year, then maybe we'll be on an upturn, and maybe I'll be able to say, right, yeah, we can justify another gilly on the beach. That would be great to see that, but it needs careful handling, and we need support from the Scottish Parliament to help us. A few years ago they did this wild fisheries review, which took up a lot of time of people in meetings, etc., and the whole thing was ditched. So it was a waste of time. So that's not very good from a parliamentary point of view.
No. Well, I just want to bring in Archie again. I'm just going to take Archie off mute. Okay. Archie, we have, are you there?
Yes.
We have John Elworthy has left a message. He said, Royal Deeside is my heaven on earth. Looking forward to fishing with Archie in May. I usually bring up several friends with me, and I should think we add to the rural economy to the tune of 2 to 2.5K twice a year. It would take a lot to stop me from coming, but he is saying that the current climate is making him think twice, and he did say please give him a fish because it's his 10th year of trying. So, but Archie, the economy and the importance, you're looking after 9 miles of fishing, and you're doing that on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, right. It's we restrict. We make them 9 miles, but I can only take a maximum of 5 rods.
Yeah.
Which, if they're all brand new fishers, can take quite a lot of looking after. the mileage in my motor on the 9 miles is quite substantial. And, you know, I average about 20,000 miles a year on the river. Not, you know, never mind going anywhere else. But we used to be, well, there would have been 3 gillies for the 9 miles. Now we're just down to 1, same thing. And it's, well, I'm told by powers to be that we don't make a profit. So, you know, it's where we used to be dead men's shoes. It has gone to, you know, particularly summer-wise, the July months. It's very, very poorly let. And, you know, obviously if there was more fish about, that could improve. But that's where a staycation might make the difference. Well, because I did have a better July last year with fishers, but we also had water, which again made a difference. There were fish about. You know, it's not. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, you know, we charge a fortune, but these days when you take the cost of everything, my wages, the motor expenses, the office has to get, you know, a certain amount goes to the office, etc. When they break it all down, in fact, the rates are one of the worst things as well. They're quite a major thing but that's obviously that runs the river board. So, and it's, you know, the more successful are, the more you pay, which is a bit unfortunate, but there you go.
Well, I'm going to ask that question to Simon as well. I'm just going to bring Simon in and unmute him. Simon, you run 2 beats.
Yes, we run 2 beats on the Tay.
Again, you're in boats as well.
Yes, we lease the fish off, lease the 2 beats off the owners, and in the last 2 years we've had to say that we can't afford to pay the full amount of rent. We've been able to negotiate a deduction. We don't employ full-time gilly on either beats because it's totally unsustainable, and I do quite a bit of gilling myself on both beats, and we've got retired people who come in when we get a booking and when needed on each beat, and that's the only way we can survive at the moment. And until we can get a continuation of regular bookings and, you know, fish to get hold of, you know, unfortunately it's all statistics. Fish means people. No fish, no people. And but I do agree with one of the previous points. I think it's going to be merry hell once we get into July and August again this year. It'll be like Buckland's bloody holiday camp, especially up here at Dunkeld, with the hotel right next door. You know, one of the best fly pools we've got off the bank. You arrive there to go fishing and you see a bare arse swimming around in the pool. So there's not much chance of catching anything in there. So you do see some sights that, you know, because of it. But yes, from the economical point of view, yes, we are finding it very difficult. Some of the beats on the Tay, the ones that are okay, the ones that have been time shared, they've got regular management charges and they're fairly insulated against the ravages of the economy. But for us other beats that are trying to attract customers, it is not very profitable at the moment. It's really hard work.
And lockdown number 3, that hasn't helped at all, has it?
Well, no, because you've got credit notes issued from last year, which are going into this year's prime time. So they've taken up the slots when people are actually going to be able to hopefully get out and fish from the 22nd of April. No, 26th of April, isn't it? So, you know, you're actually, until as long as we can get a clear run at it next time, next year, we're not going to see, you know, a clear sheet to start off with, you know, a good turnover for 1 year. So, you know, it's a 2-year whammy. Everybody's suffering.
Yeah. And accommodation as well. People are struggling to get accommodation if you're traveling from a distance. And that's what a lot of people are doing, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's quite interesting. The FishPal bookings we've had for the both beats this year, nearly everyone has been people from Scotland. Nobody's booked from England. They've just been sitting on the fence waiting to see when the thing's going to quieten down and when they can risk taking a punt on booking. And it has just put a whole break on the thing. And the same with hotels, because they haven't been able to open. People can't stay anywhere. Yes, it's been a nightmare for everybody. You know, it's no use us just whinging on. You know, everybody's in the same boat. We've all had a pill to swallow, a bitter one at that. But let's hope, you know, as Sir Tom said, tomorrow is a good day, and let's hope it is.
Yeah, and ourselves here at FishPal, we've really struggled as well. So we, you know, we are sympathise with everybody out there as well. I'm going to say goodbye to you, Simon, now. Thank you so much for coming in, and take care, and tight lines for the rest of the season. Okay. Bye-bye, my love. Bye. Bye. Charlie Whelan, one last word from you. I'm just going to bring Charlie in. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us.
Yeah, well, I'll be out fishing later, I think. I mean, very selfishly, of course, wonderful for those of who live on the Spey. We can go to all the very expensive beats because they're letting us fish them very cheaply because there's nobody else here. I stay on the association, so I'm very lucky. I'm sorry about that, but
yeah, well, thank you so much for joining in on this rural workers protest chat. So thank you, Charlie, and we look forward to seeing you soon, and tight lines for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And lovely Archie. Oh, Archie, you still there, my love?
I am, yes. Thanks.
Oh, well, and you've got guests with you this afternoon. Again, local rods. The estate have been very, very generous again with the local rods as well, which is important, isn't it?
Yes, well, the thing about we often get some of the kids with the local rods as well, which are our future. You know, we need to encourage kids into the sport more than anything. Because, well, I think everyone in the same boat. Our guests just keep getting older and older, as gillies do every year. And we do need the young, fresh blood, certainly, to keep it going. That's for sure.
You'll be pleased to know that the age group 18 to 24 on the FishPal site has actually seen one of the biggest growths of people viewing the site. So I'm currently doing some stats at the moment, so which is really positive, and young ladies are actually matching up with the same as the number of views as the younger lads as well. So it's really, really positive, and 20% of views now across the whole of the spectrum to the FishPal side are coming from women, and that's really, really good, because I know myself, you tend to find that a lot of ladies, they'll actually bring the kids with them, or bring their nephews, their nieces, etc., to actually grow the sport. And also on D side, you've got the wonderful D damsels as well.
Yes, yeah, I have the experience of the D damsels. Yes,
we love them. We love Tara and the girls.
Yes, Tara's. She's often across the water, so she's a good laugh, etc.
So, brilliant. Well, you take care, and tight lines for the rest of the season as well.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you, Archie. Goodbye. Yes. Bye-bye. And have I unmuted him? Hello. Are you still there, Robert?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So, good. Bob, as you are obviously on the committee of the Scottish Gamekeepers Association, can you finish us today with what the organisation is looking to achieve, and how well this has been a brilliant march, because I know that you would have been in Edinburgh today, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it would have been fairly spectacular, I would think.
Yeah.
And hopefully by us organising this protest that the MSPs or future MSPs will sit up and take notice that you know, the rural community counts. We provide a lot of income coming into Scotland. It is a valuable part of the tourist industry. I did a video there the other day for Kenneth, which I think he's going to post or whatever. And one of the points that I was making is that, you know, how valuable angling tourism is to Scotland. You know, people, we deliver an experience here. The scenery is absolutely stunning, as Archie was saying. You know, the Dee Valley is something else. The Spey Valley is spectacular. Further north, it has its own beauties. You know, here in Perthshire, you know, we've got absolutely everything here. You know, we're Perth. If you go 15 minutes out of Perth, you're in the hills, on the rivers. Yeah, we've got an awful lot to offer, but we need support, and that support has to come from government to, you know, to help keep this going in whatever way they can. You know, I think the majority of it's all privately funded, which is a great excuse to do nothing. But yeah, we need political support as well, and hopefully these people have really realised that you know, May's just round the corner and our votes count. So please support us in the future.
Yeah, and the rural economy, it's, you know, we're expecting a very high demand of tourists coming to Scotland, and it really does need the help to, you know, obviously, because people are coming to Scotland, they want to come to Scotland because it's so beautiful. You're so well looked after when you come here. People are so friendly, and everybody needs it. We need help, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but thank you so much. We've gone over the hour. I apologise to everybody for the start of this. Obviously, my internet connection, just to let you know that my computer has still not actually started, which basically meant that all my notes, I've actually been sitting on a computer that I haven't been able to see. So if I've missed any salient points out, I apologise. And huge thanks to everybody that's come onto this live, because I know we've actually had people on this from Germany, from also as well as from Pakistan as well, and which is which I thought was fantastic. Somebody coming on from Pakistan, because I can imagine the fishing out in Pakistan would be absolutely fascinating to go fishing there. I think we should actually have a trip out, shouldn't we? And then we should definitely. Anyway, I'll see you soon on the river, because we'll be able to go fishing and travel soon. Because even my boss Mark, he's unable to go fishing. So he's looking forward to going out fishing as well when we can actually go. And so tight lines. And thank you so much, Bob, as well.
An absolute pleasure, and thank you very much.
Oh no, my pleasure. You take care, my love, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, you take care as well. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Apologies again for the start of this, where my computer decided to crash, and I'm now working off my laptop. But you know something, we all overcome. And we move on, and together everybody can work. If we all work together, look what we can achieve. So take care and have a lovely weekend, whatever you're doing. And if you ever see me out on the riverbank, do come and say hello to me. Bye bye, everybody.